Okay, so tax advising. Let's be honest, not everyone's first thought when they think dream career, right? But you sent over some interesting stuff from RoleCatcher, and I have to say it's got me thinking this is like next level money detective work, right?
What I find really interesting is how these sources show the human side of it. You're
Yeah.
not just dealing with numbers. It's people's anxieties, their hopes for the future. It's surprisingly personal.
Yeah, for sure. The RoleCatcher guide talks about devising tax efficient strategies. That sounds way more James Bond than like your typical tax preparer, wouldn't you say?
Maybe not quite Bond, but it's definitely way more strategic than people think. It's all about understanding how complex tax law is. And trust me, it can get really complex to try to get the best outcome for your client.
And the guide also mentions tax advisors can specialize. So, pop quiz hotshot, give us the specializations.
All right. All right, put me to the test. Well, we're talking mergers and acquisitions, so think global companies dealing with all sorts of regulations. Then you've got trust and estate taxes, which is helping people protect what they've earned and plan for the future. Helping people secure their family's financial legacy.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot. And they talk about using tech like software, but also needing good old fashioned people skills.
Oh, absolutely. Remember, you're the one explaining these complicated laws to your clients in a way that actually makes sense. You need patience, empathy, and you have to be a clear communicator.
And having to stay updated on all the laws and regulations, it's like you're constantly learning.
It's true. The tax world is always changing, but that's what keeps it interesting. Always keeps you on your toes, adapting to new challenges, the very intellectually demanding job.
Okay, so you've got this demanding job, long hours, especially during tax season. What's the upside? Why would someone choose this career path?
Well, the RoleCatcher guide mentions some pretty good perks. Obviously, earning potential is a big one. But there's also that intellectual challenge, the opportunity to move up in your career, and of course, the satisfaction of helping people navigate a system that can feel really overwhelming.
It is a pretty in-demand profession too, right? RoleCatcher talks about the positive employment outlook.
That's right. Because as those tax laws get more and more complex, the need for skilled advisors who can really break things down and give solid guidance, that need's only going to grow.
So let's say someone is listening to this and they're kind of intrigued by this whole tax advising thing. What's our advice?
If you're someone who enjoys numbers, loves a good puzzle, and you really have a desire to help people, then this could be a super rewarding career path for you. But definitely do your research, talk to some actual tax professionals,
Yeah.
and maybe even try to shadow someone to see what the day-to-day is really like.
This role catcher guide really gets into the details of what a tax advisor actually does. Like it breaks down their typical day, their work environment, even industry trends.
And it's not all just crunching numbers in a cubicle. The guide really stresses how important communication and interpersonal skills are. You're working with clients face-to-face, explaining complicated things and building relationships.
Yeah, and it's interesting how much of a role technology is playing. They talk about tax software and all these digital tools that are changing how these advisors work. It's constantly evolving.
Definitely, even with all the new techs, those core skills, like being able to analyze things, think critically, and problem solve, those never go out of style.
Right. It's about knowing how to use those tools the right way. RoleCatcher really makes it seem like this career keeps you thinking is always in demand and you can really make a difference. Not bad for a job with the word tax in it,
Not
right?
bad at all. It's using your expertise to guide people through this system and reach their financial goals.
Yeah.
There's even a story in the guide about this couple who almost lost their dream home because they misunderstood something about taxes, and their tax advisor helped them save it. It's real people with real problems.
Wow, that's a powerful example. So it shows how much of an impact a good tax advisor can make. So let's get into it. What does it actually take to become one? RoleCatcher gets into the education and skills you need, and it's more than just being good at math.
Yeah, you need a really strong foundation in tax law, accounting principles, even economics. You need to get how everything works together.
And you can't forget about staying up to date. Tax laws change all the time, so you've got to keep learning throughout your career. RoleCatcher talks about that a lot. They even suggest getting certified, like becoming a CPA, a certified public accountant, or a CTA chartered tax advisor to boost your resume and show off what you know.
Having those certifications can definitely help you move up in your career, like getting a senior tax advisor position or even starting your own firm.
Networking seems pretty important too. They talk about joining groups like the American Institute of CPAs or going to industry events to meet people and stay in the loop. It's a competitive field, so anything you can do to stand out and make connections can really give you an advantage.
Absolutely. And since we're talking about standing out, let's talk about RoleCatcher's tools for a minute. They have this really cool feature, RoleCatcher. It's a browser plugin that lets you save jobs you find on different job boards right to your RoleCatcher account. No more having tons of tabs open or forgetting where you saw that perfect job.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you can keep all those potential jobs organized in one place.
Exactly. And they have this board view that lets you see your whole job search pipeline, prioritize which applications you want to work on, and even track how everything is going.
Like having a personal job search assistant.
Exactly. But it gets even better. They have this AI-powered CV and resume builder. You upload your resume, and the AI compares it to descriptions of jobs you're interested in. So you're not sending out the same generic resume anymore. It's all about making it perfect for each opportunity.
So it shows you where your skills might not be an exact match, suggests things you can improve, and helps you add those keywords that recruiters are looking for.
Exactly. Takes out all the guesswork of writing a resume and make sure you're putting your best foot forward. And if you need to change things up for different applications, you can do that too. You can link different versions of your resume to each job.
Wow, that's smart. That way you can highlight the skills and experience that are most relevant to each job. But what about interviews? Those can be scary.
Don't worry, RoleCatcher has your back. They have this awesome interview prep tool with more than 120,000 practice interview questions. They're even categorized by career and skill. It's like they thought of everything.
120,000 questions, that's insane. But it's one thing to have the questions, it's another thing to actually practice answering them.
You're right, and RoleCatcher's got you covered there too. You can practice your answers and record yourself with their video practice feature and even get feedback from AI on how you're doing. Like if you want to know if you're fidgeting too much or saying a lot, the AI will let you know.
That's so useful. I wish I had something like that when I was interviewing. Okay, so we've talked about the skills, the education, the
Mhm.
tools. What about the actual day-to-day stuff a tax advisor does?
RoleCatcher breaks that down too. When you're first starting out, you're often helping out the more senior advisors doing research preparing tax returns, basically learning the ropes. Then as you move up to a junior tax advisor, you're given more responsibility working directly with clients, figuring out those tax-efficient strategies, and doing some tax planning.
It's like being a financial detective solving tax mysteries.
Exactly. And when you reach the senior tax advisor level, you're the expert everyone goes to. You're handling the really complex cases. Maybe you specialize in things like mergers and acquisitions or advising on complicated trust and estate stuff.
You're leading teams, mentoring new advisors, and really making a difference in how your clients manage their money. It sounds like a career with a lot of room to grow.
It definitely is. But RoleCatcher doesn't sugarcoat things either. They're honest about the fact that it's a demanding job, especially during tax season, with long hours and high stress levels.
And because the tax laws are always changing, you constantly need to be learning new things, which can be a lot. But like we've been saying, it also keeps things interesting.
That's right. It's definitely not a career for people who don't like hard work or change. You have to be able to adapt, handle stress, and really be passionate about this kind of work to succeed. But if you can do those things, the rewards can be huge, both for your career and personally.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about what the job is, like what skills you need, the technology involved, how important networking is, even the potential career path you can take. I think what's really sticking with me is how much more there is to tax advising than just working with numbers.
I completely agree. It's a career that requires a special mix of technical knowledge, communication skills, and a real desire to help people through a system that can be really confusing.
You know, this whole conversation is making me wonder about other careers out there that need that same mix of skills, making difficult information easy to understand and maybe even a little bit fun. That's a really valuable skill no matter what you do.
Don't just think about it, do something. Use this information to make a plan. Set some goals. Take that first step toward a job you'll love.
You got this. And remember, resources like RoleCatcher are there to help you every step of the way. Whether you need help making a resume that stands out, practicing for that big interview, or even just figuring out what you want to do.
Speaking of figuring things out, one thing that really hit home for me was how important it is to be a good communicator, to take something complicated and make it make sense. And that's a useful skill in so many jobs, not just being a tax advisor.
100%. Think about it. We're constantly getting hit with so much information these days. Being able to cut through all that noise, understand complex data, and explain it to someone in a way that's easy to get, that's a super valuable skill.
Yeah, that's a skill a lot of people are looking for in any field, really.
Mm.
Finance, tech, healthcare, even education. Like imagine if your doctor could explain your diagnosis so you really get it, but you're not totally freaking out. That's powerful.
Or entrepreneurs. They have to explain their ideas to investors, customers, even their own teams. If they can't get their point across in a way that makes sense, they're not going to be very successful.
It's not enough to just know your stuff anymore. You have to be able to translate, be that bridge between your expertise and what people understand.
It's so true. And I feel like as the world relies more and more on data, that ability to look at all that information and find the important stuff and share it, that's only going to become more important in the future.
I totally agree. So if you're out there listening to this thinking, hey, I'm actually pretty good at explaining complicated things,
Mhm.
maybe it's time to use that to your advantage.
Exactly. Maybe there's a career out there you haven't even thought about where being a clear communicator is what they're looking for.
And if all this talk about tax advising has you curious, don't forget, RoleCatcher has tons of resources to help you learn more.
Yeah, they're way more than your average job board.
Okay, everyone, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of tax advising. We went from taxes to fascinating, right?
I'd say so. We got into the skills, the challenges, the tech involved, even some of the unexpected perks of this job that people don't always understand. And hopefully we've given you some things to think about, like how important it is to be a good communicator no matter what you do.
And if you want more info about all the great stuff RoleCatcher has to offer, check out their website.
And until next time, keep those brains working. Stay curious, and remember, there are so many awesome careers out there just waiting for you to discover them.